barreled down like the sound of a train. I was standing alone on a bridge. She broke my will in a hard-driving rain and pulled me away from the edge. And she slipped me out of my rage into the comfort of change. I walked out on those who loved and believed me for reasons I still can't explain. By what I refused, I was bound like a hound to howl or make love out of shame, till she slipped me out of my rage into the comfort chains. I kiss my mistress as she whispers this. Poets leave only words in their wills. They run from the fire in search of a flame, and come home consumed with the chills. Where she slipped me out of my rage into the comfort chains. So tonight I'll climb the scale of my song, come too far to back down again. Ain't no ledge like this one with a view that never ends, and a fall that's to die for, my friend. And she slipped me out of my rage into the comfort, into the comfort, into the comfort chains.
The name of that song is called Comfort of Change. It was written and performed live today by my special guest, Austin, Texas singer-songwriter Russell Bartlett. Russell will be playing tomorrow night at Conway Muse, Saturday, May 13th at 8 o'clock p.m. I heard about Russell recently from a dear friend of mine in Tucson, as he was the headliner of the Tucson Folk Festival recently. Russell, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Greg. It's great to be back. I say back because I was telling Joe, the producer, earlier that this is actually, I think, the second time that I have interviewed with KSVR. The last time was as a member of a grunge rock band about 30 years ago, I think. It's been a while. As a teenager.
I knew you started out in a grunge band. Wasn't they called the Bundle of Hiss?
Bundle of Hiss.
Right.
And interestingly enough, we do have a short history in Bellingham.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of members were attending school there, so we rehearsed and played some shows up there and went into KSVR and did a brief interview. And the name Bundle of Hiss actually came from, I think, our guitar player learned that the nerve center of the human heart is actually called the bundle of his, H-I-S, after the German, I don't know, physicist or whatever that discovered it. And we just added an S to it to make it cool. And we were Bundle of His.
That's terrific.
It's going back a few years.
And speaking of going back a few years, I didn't know until recently that you're originally from very close to us here on the Camano Island area.
Yeah, Stanwood, Camano. My family lived both places when I was a kid growing up. We lived on the island briefly and then in a little farm outside of Stanwood.
You can almost walk
That's
to Conway.
right.
Muse.
Get it? Yeah.
That's great.
I may have a time or two.
That's funny. Well, it's wonderful to have you here, and I have so much that I want to talk to you about. I know that you have started out with some friendships after you left the grunge band business and moved to Austin, Texas, that a couple of people who I'm very familiar with and really enjoy their music, you befriended, and one of them was Townes Van Zandt. Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, you know what? My mother introduced me for whatever reason. My mother had some really cool records when I was a kid, and I just loved playing her LPs. And I just really became fond of singer songwriters. And for some reason, that kind of era of Nashville songwriters, the Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt, Mickey Newbury, Chris Christopherson, Tom T. Hall, all of those, she had a lot of that stuff. And I just kind of formed this just to listen to that stuff, and it just implanted sort of indelibly in my brain. Even going through my grunge years and whatever, I could just never get it out of my system, as I say. When I discovered Townes, back then, I mean, this was in the early and mid 90s. He wasn't a household name, even in the songwriting circles, like he is, of course, now. I just kind of looked him up through a friend of a friend, was able to kind of track him down and lured him up to Seattle to play a show at a place, club that's no longer in existence, called the Backstage. And I have no idea, Greg, at this point, how I did this, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was really just kind of starting out, but I somehow convinced Townes and his friend Mickey Newbury and Guy Clark all to come to Seattle to Backstage. And I opened up for them, did a terrible set. I was so nervous and just getting started, but I really was just sort of starstruck by those guys. So they all played that night, and I just kind of became friends, not real close friends. Briefly with Townes, we were pretty close, but Townes had a lot of quote close friends, but I was just consider myself very fortunate to have gotten acquainted with him. He wrote some liner notes. I played some songs for him that he seemed to like, wrote some liner notes for me. And his wife was she was not my manager so much as my publisher of some early songs that I did in Nashville. And so that was a friendship that only lasted a few years, because Townes only lived a couple of years beyond that. He died in, I think, New Year's Day, 1997. We'd have some phone conversations, and I got to play some shows with him. It's a really cool relationship as the years have gone on. I didn't realize at the time how special it was, but as the years have gone on, of course, it's really something I'm very, very proud of and very thankful to have crossed paths with him.
Yes, 3 icons that you befriended.
Yeah.
Convinced to come to Seattle for a show. That's wonderful.
Can you believe that? I know.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head. It's amazing.
I know. It took some persistence. The hardest to get was Newbury. He was down in Springfield, Oregon, and he just kind of had retired from Nashville. For those of people who don't know, Mickey Newbury, I think, is maybe the finest consummate singer-songwriter maybe ever. You listen to his stuff, the way he sang and wrote and performed is just amazing. He and Townes were contemporaries, but he'd kind of retired and liked it that way, was playing golf a lot and didn't really want to come out of hiding, but I managed to get him to and do that show. And I'm so grateful now that I did.
Our listeners may not realize that Mickey Newbury was the author of the song that Kenny Rogers in the first edition made very popular, which was Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Condition Was In.
Indeed. And many others, probably pushing 1,000 cuts of his songs out there by other artists.
I'm a big fan of his and play his music from time to time on my show, as well as Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt. Pancho and Lefty has become a pretty much a stable of people who record that song over and over again. How about you do a second song for us?
Sure. Yeah, I thought I'd do this little song that I made this up. I wrote this song based on a true story. It happened to a couple friends of my father's in a little town up near you called Rockport on Highway 20, I think, over the North Cascade highways. And there's a couple friends of his who were brothers. And just a brief setup, I tend to tell 6-minute stories about 3-minute songs. I'll make it short. One of the brothers owned a bar there, and the other one owned an excavation company. And this was how they had to come together one day, and very opposite personalities, but it took the two of them to kind of diffuse what could have been, well, ended up being a quite a day in Rockport, Washington. This is Legend of the Rockport Hog Slaughter.
Rockport folks remember Henny McHugh, tavern owner, Mayo too. Owned a little joint on a river called the Angler's Cove. Henny had a brother by the name of Gus. He was known as the Butcher, for reasons I'll discuss. A quiet hero with a thirst and a Marlboro nose. The Butcher ran a quarry just east of town. He was part-time bouncer at his brother's lounge. He'd done a tour of Vietnam, found he kinda liked the place. Had a temper that flared like the 4th of July. Drove a 12-yard diesel with his name on the side. With that bucket full of gravel he demanded and got both lanes. The local sheriff enforced only gravity's laws. He let a whole lot of stuff go down. After fly fishing season opened, you know, he was nowhere to be found. It was early August back in '85. The town was dead as a dormant hive. The Rockport Country Fair came and went. Henny heard approaching mufflers roar, then squealed to a stop outside of his door. Ugliest bunch of bikers that bar ever met. Then like a stain they all spilled into his place. Their high-dollar hogs parked out in the street. Henny smelled trouble, Butch smelled opportunity. They said, relax, we want no trouble with you. We're just wetting our whistles as we're passing through. But when the beer ran out, so did their diplomacy. You know they look like friends of Charlie Manson as they tore that joint to shreds. Henny hit on the floor, Butch ran out the door saying, I'll be back, you filthy pigs. Well, Henny was nervous as a cat on a spit. The regulars left and the waitress quit. She called the sheriff, but the trout was biting that day. And as their pretty bikes glistened in the afternoon heat, Henny heard an air horn blaring up the street. It sounded like Gideon's trumpet come Judgment Day. Then the place started shaking like a Ford front end. You should have seen the faces of them bikers then. They stood at the window, witness to the kill. With his bucket fully loaded and that diesel wound out, the Butcher plowed through them hogs, took everyone out. The flying chrome was like a scene from Hamburger Hill. Well, Butch done some time for a property crime, but for a martyr, that's a small price to pay. The Butcher of Rockport never struck again, and the hogs never came back to play.
And that's the story.
Rockport Hog Slaughter. I'm sure those folks up at Rockport who are listening on KSVU will get a big kick out of that.
I wonder if anybody up there still remembers that. I think it was actually earlier than the 80s. It may have happened in the 70s. I'm not sure. But yeah, but true story.
My special guest today is Austin singer-songwriter Russell Bartlett, who will be playing tomorrow, Saturday, May the 13th at Conway Muse in the Hayloft at 8:00 p.m. I know this is not your first time playing there either, Russ, and that's such a fantastic old Norwegian barn, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I think the last time I played, I think it was 3-4 years ago there.
Really I knew it was your second time that you played there. Russ is open for such great artists: Steve Earle, Guy Clark, Mickey Newberry, Townes Van Zandt, Lyle Lovett, Billy Joe Schaefer, you've just about been the highlight for all of them, haven't you, at one time or another?
Well, I think I just became such a pest to them that they finally just relented, you know. It wasn't not necessarily by any virtue of my playing or my material, I don't think, but I just, you know, you just put yourself in the right place at the right time. And I kind of, you know, just, those guys are all, you know, heroes of mine, like Billy Joe Shaver. You know, I've loved him forever, and I just wouldn't take no for an answer. And I finally got the opportunity to open for him.
Let me point out too that Russ's website is russellbartlett.com, RussellBartlett.com. Facebook, russell.bartlett. You can see some of his music, some great pictures that are on there, learn about his background from Camano Stanwood originally. You know, you look pretty young for befriending all these artists that many of them passed away.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, you know, I was really just starting out. The guys like Newberry and Towns, and those guys were sort of fatherly figures to me. You know, that's why at this point, to me, it's so special that I was able to have friendships with them, because I realized they were kind of getting to the end of their, not just their careers, but as it turns out, their lives. You know, I mean, Guy left us more recently, but Mickey and Towns have been gone a long time. So they weren't long friendships because of that. You know, I was just getting started and they were kind of coming to the end of the track.
Well, of course, the listeners can't see you like I can on this video that we're making today to do our interview, but I swear you've got a portrait in your attic that's going to hell. I mean, you really look good.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Yeah.
It's kind of you. It's the filter I put on the camera, Greg.
That's great. Hey, can you do a third song for us, Russell? That'd be great.
I'd love to. Yeah, this is one kind of inspired by my folks. It's a nice little ballad that I wrote called Better Dreams. Come summer, come spring, come whatever may, when it comes to us, I come to life with all I meant to say. Thoughts aloft like ashes on a breeze. You were only inches from me, I could touch your whims. On a bender, I remember drinking you all in. I thought I'd sleep you off once we arrived. Now for the life of me, I can't remember why. So better dreams, babe. Forgive my craziness. Now it's all a perfect blur. We were together, and I forget the rest. Were we spirits or passing trains, only bound by doubt? If we quarreled like old lovers, I must have shut that out. I let my senses go those rainy mornings, where you took every one of them by storm. Believe me, you can't bereave me, no matter what you ever do or say. I painted scenes of us in every corner, and I ain't gonna let them get away. I'm sitting here counting dust and thinking about us, chasing you somewhere down the hall into the darkness 1,000 miles from here. I
Thought I'd sleep you off once we got there. Now for the love of me, I can't remember where, but in better dreams, babe, everything makes sense. Now it's all a perfect blur. We were together, and I forget the rest. We were together, and I forget the rest.
Beautiful, Russ. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
My special guest today, singer-songwriter Russell Bartlett, who will be playing tomorrow night, Saturday, May the 13th at 8 o'clock p.m. at Conway Muse in Conway, Washington. Please take a look at his website, russellbartlett.com, or his Facebook site at russell.bartlett. It's been an absolute pleasure, but I got a couple more things I want to ask you about, Russ. You're a very witty guy, and I enjoy that so much. I was reading in your bio, you said that you play and sing music for your dependency issues.
Yeah, that is my music is my substance of choice. Not that I haven't tried other things, but that seems to be the one that has lasted.
And the songs are like strangers who keep showing up at my door.
I like to say that songs for me kind of don't go away. And since I was a kid, 8 or 9 years old, these songs just kind of show up. And I say these days, they just kind of show up at my door and refuse to not be let in. So you let them in and sit down and have a cup of coffee with them and hear them out, hear what they have to say. Sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's a gem. You know, I've tried to ignore it, but really can't. And I say, you know, at times when I have felt like walking away from the music business, and have done that a few times, I guess it's time to move, because they always seem to find my door. But I'm glad they do, because I don't feel like I'm a complete soul unless I put them out there, you know, listen to them.
My special guest today has been Russell Bartlett, Austin, Texas singer-songwriter, who will be playing at Conway Muse on Saturday, May the 13th at 8 o'clock p.m. Russ, let's do one last song by recording that you've done for our friend Martha Ritalik. She has told me that she just loves a song called Tahlequah Blues. Tell me just a little bit about it, set up
Sure.
as we go out the door.
Well, I appreciate Martha very much. And she is quite an interesting, our histories are a little similar in that we kind of grew up in baseball families. My father was a semi-professional coach, so I grew up kind of in dugouts in my early years. And so I heard a lot of stories from these aspiring baseball players. And Tahlequah Blues you're about to play, Greg, is kind of told from the perspective of an aspiring minor leaguer who spends way too many years in the minor leagues, always aspiring to get somewhere else. But it could be applied to anything, whether it's a songwriter or an artist or whoever, somebody pursuing their dreams. And that's kind of the spirit of that song.
Russ, thanks again so much for joining me here on the Friday Afternoon Music Mix. Hope the show tomorrow night is a big success, and I hope you'll come back and see me again sometime. That'd be wonderful.
I absolutely will. Anytime. Greg, I appreciate y'all very much. Thanks for having me, and look forward to the next time.
It's the mud in your eye and the sand in your shoes. It's the mud in your eye and the sand in your shoes. Diamonds are forever, babe, so are the Tahlequah Blues. Another beer than lend your earwood, shorty. Lord, I finally shoved away from the plate. My bragging right's gone, my aim ain't so true, and my knees know I lie about my age. Paid my dues so long, they seem like don't slow. Though my daddy taught me not to complain. Last night in Tulsa, them clouds they rolled in, I found myself praying for rain. So here's the mud in your eye and the sand in your shoes. Oh, here's the mud in your eye sand in your shoes. Load them corner fastballs, let me the Tahlequah blues. Every win, every loss, every long tooth, every motel bed with a thud, every mud-filled mosquito that found me found out I got this game in my blood. But these Ozark nights, they keep you hanging. That show is always one slump too soon. When you're hitting 240 and your hair's turning gray, that show might as well be the moon. So shorty, pour me one more, and I'll speak kindly to you. Oh, won't you pour me one more, and I'll speak kindly to you. 12 years of swaddling flies, Lord, let me the Tahlequah blues. Lord, this league is like the Darwin River, where it sink or it swim against the flow. For every whining millionaire that floats to the top, 100 sink down below. I got a girl and a kid in Tacoma, tried to make it, Lord knows it's true. But a man's gotta follow his hunger and soul, especially when the count's 3 and 2. So here's the mud in your eye and the sand in your shoes. Yeah, here's the mud in your eye and the sand in your shoes. The diamonds are forever, babe, so are the Tahlequah blues. See, diamonds are forever, so are the Tahlequah blues.